President Xis Big Lie, by J.R. Nyquist. Rosemary Gibson once said, "If China shuts the door on exports of medicines, within a couple months our pharmacies would be empty. Our healthcare system would cease to function. That's how dependent we are." It is worth quoting excerpts from President Xi Jinping's speech of 27th of March, made during the extraordinary G20 video summit. One might characterize his speech as a tissue of lies. He said, "The COVID-19 outbreak caught us all by surprise." This claim is doubtful. Early reports suggest that Xi was fully informed about the outbreak of a SARS-like illness in Wuhan, weeks before it became a global pandemic. Why else would the dictator's trembling minions prevent doctors and scientists from alerting others? The world may have been caught by surprise, but not Xi. According to the mayor of Wuhan, Xi forced the city to hold a holiday potluck at which 10,000 were infected. This facilitated the spread of the virus. Here is how the Wall Street Journal characterized Mayor Zhou Xinwang's comments. Mr. Zhou used an interview with state broadcaster China Central Television to push back against criticism of Wuhan's handling of the virus, saying his hands were tied by rules that required Beijing's approval before releasing sensitive information. His careful attempt to shift blame to the central leadership mirrored complaints that local officials have expressed in private for years about President Xi Jinping's rigid, top-down leadership style. At the G20 video summit, however, Xi bragged about his prompt handling of the pandemic. How skillful he was. He boasted of acting with openness and transparency. Does anyone really believe that China has fewer deaths than New York? Wonders never cease with these communist miracle workers. They are certainly ahead of the game. Consider Breitbart's addendum to Xi's braggadocio. As of February of this year, China manufactures 97% of all American antibiotics, 80% of the pharmaceutical ingredients needed in all American drugs, and the majority of the nation's, and the world's, medical protective supplies, like masks. America dares not oppose the Chinese dictator. He has us by the short hairs. He now demands a G20 meeting of health ministers. Naturally, with China's command of the world's pharmaceuticals, which health minister would dare balk Beijing's regime of global health governance? President Xi is prepared to advance his vision of building a community with a shared future for mankind. He then added, "China will be more than ready to share our good practices." Ah yes. And what are these practices? Can anyone guess? Screams have been reported from the premises of Wuhan's funeral homes. According to Radio Free Asia, elderly COVID-19 patients are brought to the crematoria alive. They are wrapped, pleading, in plastic body bags. Some are violently subdued. Speaking with a Wuhan accent, a female witness has recorded a video. She says elderly patients were bound and zipped into bags while alive. They were taken to be cremated. "I saw these cases myself," she said. "It strikes fear into my heart. I want to cry, it's terrifying." President Xi told his colleagues at the G20 video summit, "We need to protect the elderly, people with disabilities and other vulnerable groups." Then he called for more access to markets, a strengthening of China's dominant position. He underscored the role of outbound investment from China and, last but not least, removing tariffs. The Chinese Communist Party intends to expand its holdings at the coming corporate fire sale in Europe and America. Beijing is sitting on a mountain of gold and cash. As the global economy slumps, China's industrial and financial might will be deployed. If that is insufficient, the People's Liberation Army will be deployed. And so we are invited to repeat our blunders, our past idiocies, to double down on the suicidal policy of trading with Communist China. Beijing controls our medicine supply. Xi Jinping can attack our weakened currency. He can force open our markets. He can take charge of our remaining industries. During the last 40 years our politicians and business leaders built China into a great economic and military power. Now we are at China's mercy. The problem is, President Xi is not inclined to show mercy. Nixon and Kissinger put this process in motion, and we praise them as visionaries. But they were not visionaries. Anyone who studied the Chinese communists closely, or honestly, would have warned against the China policy of Nixon and Kissinger. But our capitalist system, with its eye on short-term profit, sacrificed our national security. We need to come to terms with the errors of the past. Why were our statesmen such fools, our media so deluded, that nobody raised a serious objection? Those who did object were not even heard. Why? Because we did not want the truth. We wanted a soothing lie, instead. At this late hour it may be too late to save the country. Our only chance now is contrition, repentance, and a political about-face.